The Vatican just canceled a stamp commemorating Portugal's World Youth Day. The question is, why? Joining us now, Church Militant's Rome correspondent, Dr. Jules Gomes. Jules, the World Youth Day stamp was available for only about a week, heads up to stamp collectors. But why is the Vatican axing it?
Brad, because the Vatican Youth Day stamp goes against the dominant orthodoxies of the day. You see, it's Eurocentric, triumphalist, supremacist, and it glorifies colonialism. At least that's what the liberals are telling the Vatican.
Well, if that's all that's wrong with the stamp, I say let it go. That's a lot going on there. Well, let's take a look at this stamp in detail. Jules, can you walk us through this image and let our viewers catch them up to speed on what they're seeing here?
Right. This is an image of Pope Francis leading a group of young people with the Portuguese flag up the Lisbon monument to the discoveries, a magnificent monument that was finished in 1960 in Lisbon. It was dedicated to Henry the Navigator, celebrating the 500th year of the Navigator, who was great at discovering new sea routes. Of course, discovery is a bad word in the politically correct lexicon of liberalism today. And it is also dedicated to the Portuguese who discovered other sea routes. It was built during the reign of the Portuguese dictator Antonio Salazar to cement the national identity and to give the Portuguese a sense of national pride, which is why, of course, it's been revived.
Okay, so World Youth Day is going to be hosted in Portugal coming up in September. That's why the kids are in there.
August. It's in August.
August. Thank you. Yeah. And Rome ran this, Vatican ran this stamp a couple weeks ago, and after only about a week, took it down. So it's going to be a priceless stamp to stamp collectors. People want to get a jump on that. But it looks like a rather nice stamp, Jules. I mean, I don't see anything glaringly wrong with it. What specific reasons are being given for axing it?
Well, you don't see anything wrong in it, Brad, because you're not Bishop Carlos Azevedo, a Portuguese bishop who has got a job at the Vatican. And he said that the stamp was in poor taste because it does not, and also it does not reflect Francis's ideal of brotherhood. I quote, he said, certainly Pope Francis doesn't identify with this nationalist image that contradicts universal fraternity as well as his magisterium. I don't see how it contradicts either universal fraternity or his magisterium, but that's what the good bishop is telling us.
Well, when he starts talking about nationalism, I mean, Pope Francis has had a lot of critics out there accusing him of being a globalist pope and not without concern. And that globalism and populist movement, or globalism versus nationalism, always has seemed to be a tension coming out of the Vatican. But is there more going on here than openly being stated by the Portuguese bishop?
Absolutely, Brad, because remember, just last month, and we did a Rome Dispatch on this, interestingly enough, on the title was Purging Papal Bull. The Vatican abrogated 3 15th century bulls. Now, these were part of magisterial teaching, but the Vatican abrogated them because these bulls allegedly gave rise to some form of colonialism. We talked, of course, about how these bulls not only did not give rise to colonialism as the liberals imagine it, but also these bulls were specifically directed at Islam, militant Islam that was ravaging Europe during that period.
Okay, now the bishop also mentions, makes a comment about poor taste. Before going on here, let's take a look at another stamp that we've covered quite recently in the subject of. And this stamp is of the serial abuser Rupnik. Can you go ahead and talk about poor taste here on this one, Jules?
This is in shockingly bad taste because it's the work of Father Ivan Marko Rupnik, the Slovenian Jesuit, the celebrity mosaic artist, who has been accused of abusing over 25 religious sisters, and at least 4 of them have now openly testified, given horrific testimonies of him wanting threesomes with them. But this was put out by the Vatican's philatelic office in 2022, December. This is an image of the world. This was created for the World Meeting of Families. And despite all the scandal about Rupnik, making it to the headlines in the media, screaming headlines, the Vatican unashamedly put it out and did not take it down, even though people complained.
Is that stamp still circulating today?
We are not 100% sure, but I think there has been some sort of pullback on that. The whole thing has been, quietly shelved, even though it may not have been cancelled in the way the Vatican cancelled, so brutally terminated the life of this particular Portuguese stamp.
Well, yeah, I mean, even the fact we have to ask, is this stamp canceled or not? The Vatican never came out and, like you said, just big red screamer on. Even though, Jules, we've done Rome dispatches on Rupnik, you've done multiple articles detailing the gravity of the crime and how high it raises, in the Vatican there. While we're on the question of poor taste, Jules, what other images, you being based there in Rome, what other Vatican-endorsed images, whether on coin or on stamp, come to mind when we're talking poor taste?
In 2017, the Vatican, and remember, all this is happening under Pope Francis. The Vatican issued a stamp of Martin Luther and his mate Philip Melanchthon, marking the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. And then in 2021, the Vatican issued 4 interfaith stamps with Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, Muslims, etc., basically, pushing the message of religious pluralism, or as we would call it, indifferentism. And then in 2020, after all the Pachamama, hoo-ha, instead of quietly putting an end to the scandal, the Vatican issued an in-your-face coin of Mother Earth that immediately sent off alarm bells. It was, in fact, replicated on a sort of image of Gaia, Mother Earth. And the coin designer very clearly talked about it being an image of Mother Earth.
Well, that was the relation to that Pachamama idol they actually were worshiping in the Vatican, isn't it?
Well, yes, absolutely. There's a marked relationship, thematic relationship between the Pachamama idol worshipped in the Vatican and the coin, the Gaia Mother Earth coin issued by the Vatican. And in some circles, it was, especially in the Spanish-speaking part of the world, it was referred to as the Pachamama coin.
Well, it seems to be more than a little politics working behind the scenes. Gone are the days when such images represented truth and goodness and beauty. And Jules, thanks very much for laying out this story for us.
Thank you, Brad.